Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Michelle Morris, and I'm with Consolidated Planning Group. Today we have a new topic, all aimed at families who are new to their diagnosis. We know it's a very stressful, hard time for you, and we just want to go through some things that might make this a little bit easier on you. So if you've just received a new diagnosis, this might be one of the first webinars that you've attended with Consolidated Planning Group. So I will go through, as always, the rules of the road and kind of the housekeeping items. First of all, as someone has already asked, yes, you are all muted. We cannot see you or hear you because we are in webinar mode here on Zoom. So since we can't hear you or see you, it's really best for you to put any questions or comments that you have into the chat box. We will take all the questions that we can. And if we don't get to your question, then you will be welcomed to reach out to either myself and my office or Jennifer Swanson at her office to get those questions answered later. I offer a free consultation. Jennifer, you too?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. We both offer free consultations. So you're welcome to get in touch with us after this webinar is finished and schedule that. Um, Consolidated plan. Oh, there's one other thing. I'm sorry. I almost forgot to let you know that we do record all of our webinars and we put them on our YouTube channel. We also email you a link and we send you a copy of the slides. So you should be able to get all of this later on today. It should come to the email address that you registered for the webinar with, okay? So again, I'm Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group. We are, first of all, a financial planning firm. We do insurance, life insurance, financial planning, customized financial plans, all of that kind of stuff. But we mainly aim to help families who have a loved one or an individual in their life that has some kind of intellectual or developmental disability. We do that because the owner of our company has two kids with special needs. And when she was going through all of this, when she was in your shoes and she saw how difficult it all was, figuring out what had to be done and how to do it and who to call and what to say, she was so overwhelmed that she decided, we're going to make it so that our firm focuses solely on helping to educate and advocate for families who have an individual with a special need. So that is what we do. We've got over 30 years of experience in life insurance and investments and all of that. We are fully licensed. We are also members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and we are nationally certified Social Security advisors. Consolidated Planning Group is located just outside of Houston, Texas, but we serve families all across the United States. Most of the things that we talk about on our webinars are focused on Texas, but if you're in a different state, we can certainly answer your questions as well. So no worries there. Families come to us for things like protection plans for their family, insurance, income protection, things like that. Lifetime care planning. What is going to happen when you are gone and you can no longer take care of your loved one? There's a lot that you need to think about ahead of time for that eventuality. We help a lot with transition planning. When your child turns 18, a lot changes in the law that you need to be aware of. And we do ABLE accounts. We do, like I said, financial planning. We help people understand the benefits from the government that they deserve and how to apply for all of that. And we're here to, again, advocate for you and help educate you. As financial advisors, in the special needs community. We are pretty rare. There are over 263,000 financial advisors across the United States. 263,000. And out of those, I want you to think of a number or a percentage. Well, I give you the percent down there, so I guess that's cheating. But think about it. There's fewer than 200 special needs planners in the United States, special needs financial advisors. So that's fewer than 0.1% of all the financial advisors in the United States who really focus on special needs planning. So when you talk to us, you are definitely in the right space. So today we have with us Jennifer Swanson. She is a fantastic attorney. Sorry, and focuses also on families with special needs loved ones. And today she's going to be talking about, when you have just been given this new diagnosis, what do you do? I know a lot of times I've heard families say that, oh, our doctor handed us a folder and said, you've got this diagnosis and pretty much good luck to you. So what happens next? We know that this is a sensitive topic, and so I've got my tissues handy. You might want that as well, but feel free to, like I said, put any questions or comments in the chat box, and Jennifer or I will get to those as much as we can. So without any further ado, I think I've said everything I needed to say. Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Michelle. I am very excited to present on this topic. Let's start with the first slide, the disclaimer. The first thing is this is not legal advice. In fact, that's not even the intention of this presentation, but I want to go ahead and say it because I am an attorney. Nothing in here should be construed as legal advice or medical advice. I'm certainly not a doctor. But I also want to point out, if I slip up and reference a specific organization or something that we do as a family, that's not an endorsement of that organization. It's just our experience. So there's no one size fits all. And so it's so important for everyone to vet. So disclaimer aside, let's get to the meat of this. So background about me, excuse me, I taught special education in Texas for 9 years. I left teaching in 2016 to finish my 3rd year of law school. And then in 2017, I got my bar license and I opened my first law firm to practice special education law. I've been a special education attorney my entire career. It'll be a full 7 years this November.
Wow.
Then in 2021,
congratulations.
thank you. Then in 2021, I had my first child, and he's right here on the screen. This is Connor. So I've worked with families either as a teacher, I was a special education teacher, or a special education attorney. So this my entire adult career around special education and special needs. And none of it prepared me for the day that we got Connor's diagnosis. And as an aside, happy World Autism Day. My son has autism, and he is the reason that this webinar exists. He's the onus for it, he and in my experience. So one of the things that I would hear when I started to open up about, my oldest son has autism is people say, oh, he's so lucky to have you with all of your experience. And a lot of people are familiar with the concept of imposter syndrome, right? I felt a tremendous amount of imposter syndrome because I am still very embarrassed about how I internalized Connor's diagnosis. Now, I can break down why. I know why. It's because I know how the sausage is made and no one calls my office on a good day. So I had extra things to worry about and evidence to back that up. But regardless, you may not have taught special education and you may not have been a special education attorney. So if you're struggling with this diagnosis, the first thing that I want you to know is that that is understandable and normal, and none of us are immune to it. So this webinar is what I wish they would have shown me on my way out of the door at our developmental pediatricians, right? This is a starting point. In no way is this going to cover everything, because there's no one size fits all, right? If we know that about parenting, we certainly know that about special education or special needs situations. So I've broken this up into, I call it a checklist, but I've broken this up into some topics. Okay, so we're going to broadly define therapies, We're going to broadly define public school, community, and self-care. The idea is to give you some starting points, all right, to kind of start to get your framework for how you're going to approach this. So let's see, let's jump. There we go. So let's start with therapies. Okay. I'm going to define therapies as finding the right path and the right people for your child. Okay. And I'm an outline person. We're going to start from the top down. So as Michelle mentioned, we are in Texas. And so that actually is a huge, it has a huge impact on how your special needs journey is affected. And the reason for that, and Michelle's going to go into it more during her portion of the presentation, but we don't have a ton of, we're not pro social programs, particularly in Texas. And Michelle will get to it, but like, for example, there are interest lists that if your child has been diagnosed with anything, if you qualify, you want to get on the list, ideally yesterday, but no later than today, because the wait list it was long before COVID. It was longer after COVID. And the last time I talked to Michelle about it, she informed me that it's actually longer. We're not talking weeks, months, we're talking decades long interest lists. That's going to heavily color your experience in Texas. Okay. Bad news first. Let's get on to the better stuff. Okay. I call this slide a tale of two moms, and it's actually born out of a real experience. I am obviously the mom in the autism category. The rare genetic disorder category is a friend of mine whose daughter got her diagnosis around the same time that my son got his. And this is how our special needs journeys differ, even though we both have a child with special needs. Sorry, let me take a quick drink. My son has autism. When I checked the CDC website to prepare for this webinar, the CDC is saying 1 in 33. Today is World Autism Day, and I'm seeing on like Facebook and social media a lot of people saying 1 in 54. When I checked CDC, it said 1 in 33. The point is, it is the fastest growing developmental disability currently. Right, you are unlikely to go much longer in your life and not have someone with autism in your family at this point, based on that statistic. But what that means is that there's a place for my family in the disability, in the special education, special needs world. So when I went to my developmental pediatrician and got my diagnosis, my diagnostic code that I took to my insurance company, I had a fairly straightforward prescribed option for myself, for my son, right? There are some differences of opinions about ABA, but let's just for the sake of our conversation, he gets ABA, he gets speech, he gets OT. That's his track. And insurance has covered all of those therapies for us. So let's look at the other mom. Okay, she has a diagnosis of a rare genetic disorder. It's so rare that the diagnostic code is at the end of the number scale and actually kind of encompasses a lot of rare diseases. Her child has a diagnosis that less than 600 people worldwide have. So she has some textbook ideas about what's going to happen to her kiddo, but insurance companies are not fully aware of this. She's having to fight a different battle. They'll cover some medical necessities, but they're not covering certain therapies because they don't have any reason to cover it, like that they do for autism, the advocacy, the research, etc. So what that means is that the two of us standing side by side in 2023, when we got our diagnosis, are having very different special needs experiences, right? We're both grieving our child's diagnosis, but all I had to do was inform the insurance company, who are a couple of ABA facilities, and send my son to a wonderful place with wonderful people who are making a difference for him. She's having to blaze her own trail. And those are some important things to think about when you're thinking about if you're prone to comparing yourself to someone else. First of all, I wouldn't do that generally, but especially in this situation, there's no way for the two of us to have the same experience, not only because the diagnoses are different, but because it's treated differently in terms of insurance, in terms of what's available, and in terms of what we know works, right? So that's kind of another starting point when you're thinking about your journey. So let's go on to Mr. Rogers is one of my all-time favorites, and he has that famous quote that I'm going to paraphrase and butcher, but says, "In the hard times, look for the helpers." And these are the helpers. These are the people who are going to make or break your experience. Medical doctors to begin with. So we have a phenomenal pediatrician who was asking me the right questions. We caught Connor's autism at 15 months, very, very early. Probably could have caught it sooner. That's a different story, but still very early, because she asked me the right questions, because she didn't tell me to wait and see, because she was in tune, she keeps up, et cetera, et cetera. She was such an important part of our journey. Our developmental pediatrician is the one that actually gave us the official diagnosis. And also, that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. You may not have had a great experience, made more difficult by the fact that your insurance may cover certain people and not other people. But I think it's really important to spend the time vetting people, looking for ratings. Our pediatrician's office has a Google review, a set of Google reviews that you can read. You can see their ratings. I mean, there are different ways to vet people. But you have to, as a caregiver, as a mother or a caregiver, or whatever your role is, you have to trust your gut. And if you don't feel like you're being listened to, it's time to walk and try to find someone else, to the degree that you can, right? I understand that there are restrictions, but you need these people on your side. You need them to listen to you. Therapists. If medical doctors are the lifeblood, therapists are on the front lines. Our obviously we're an ABA, but our BCBA is just phenomenal. We adore her. She listens to us. She addresses our concerns. And that means everything, because that affects our son's treatment plan, right? There are a ton of therapists that you may need. You may need a speech therapist, occupational therapist. There's O&M, which is orientation and mobility. There's a feeding therapist. There's no limit to the number of therapists you may need. And you also want to make sure that you feel heard, that they're listening to you, and that they're sticking to the plan that they prescribed to you. I mean, there are a lot of different red flags that can come up. We had an occupational therapist before Connor got his diagnosis, while we were waiting to get in, who every time I showed up would say something different. So I did that for about 3 sessions, and then my son doesn't have time to waste, right? Then we got a new occupational therapist, and they're phenomenal. They're listening to us, talking about, there's communication. Your child doesn't have time to waste on people who aren't quite put together or whatever. These people are going to make or break your experience, and so it's so important to vet them. Counselors and social workers. Social workers, I haven't had any experience with social workers in our journey, but the other mom I described to you actually gave a really good tip, and I've got it in another slide, but I'm going to tell you again because I think it's a great tip. Her situation is so complex that every time she goes to the doctor, she's having to drink from a fire hose to learn new things. And one of the tips she said is, if you have a doctor, see if your doctor's office has a social worker who can meet with you and help you turn the water hose into bite-sized sips, help you get the resources. Like I think that's a really good tip. If you can get a social worker who can help you to navigate this. Some insurance companies actually have that as an option. I know ours did, and they reached out and we took advantage. It's in our case, it's a nurse who will reach out every couple of months and see if we need any new resources, have any new questions. It's free under our insurance. But some doctors' offices have it too. And then the last category is kind of a catch-all, but this is one of my favorite categories. Your special needs planner goes into this category. The person who's going to help you understand money and the interplay between benefits, because that's so important. Even if you think you're a person who's not going to need to rely on government benefits, you need to find out if that's actually true, because there's some interplay between insurance and benefits, that even if you have a special needs trust and it's fully funded and they're gonna, you've got your whole team, you still want to know, is there a scenario where I might need X or Z? So you don't want to skip over that part. And that's, Michelle can go through all the rest, but that's like a highly nuanced, but that's, there's some interplay there you really want to look at. And you want to start planning now, because, like I said, the interest list could be decades long, but there's also situations where loved ones might pass and want to leave money to your special needs kid, and you don't want them to leave it to the kiddo specifically if the kiddo's going to be going to have some government benefits, right? So all of those things, it's definitely worth your time. Even if you think you're not financially ready, you need the knowledge because you need to be able to plan. The other ones are our special needs babysitters, lifeblood in this house, sensory friendly hairstylist. We actually just did that recently, and it was the first haircut he's had 4 haircuts since he's been born, and it was the first one that I left. I didn't feel like a terrible mom. It was worth every penny. Special needs dentistry. We've had tons of dental issues. So look for the helpers. Look for the helpers, but trust your gut. If they don't listen to you, if they don't validate you, they're not a good fit for you. And that's okay. Keep looking. Okay, so this is a little bit of, these are just some tidbits from different moms of kiddos with special needs that have given to me that I thought were worth bringing up to kind of give you, maybe they don't mean anything to you, maybe they stick with you when you need it. But the first one I've already come up with: find a special needs or developmental pediatrician, or just a pediatrician who has a social worker on staff who can help you to make the drink from the water hose into more manageable sips, who can help you to sort through different therapies. Maybe they can talk to you a little bit about how to talk to your insurance company. I think that's worth looking for sure. Another thing, especially when we're talking about kiddos who are medically complex, right? So my son with autism is not medically complex, at least at this time. But my other friend with the rare genetic, she has a very medically complex kiddo. So it's really important for doctors, for the school, for services, for therapies, whatever someone is advising you on. If you're working with an attorney or a special needs planner, anyone who's advising you, you want to get to the why of why they're advising you for something, right? So if a doctor makes a recommendation for you, and you want to ask, why did you recommend that amount of therapy, right? So like for me, when I got Connor's diagnosis, his script, his prescription, was for 40 hours a week of ABA and speech twice a week and OT once a week. And I asked her, what was that number based on? And she said, it's based on research. Your son's never been. As they go to ABA, the ABA therapist will go through and determine what the correct amount is after they've had their first 6 months. That makes total, and that's exactly what we did. After the first 6 months, it looked like 35 hours a week was more appropriate for him, right? But I understand why they prescribed that amount, right? So you want to ask, because sometimes they will give a recommendation based on what they think insurance will cover. Well, that's understandable given how our society works, but I want to know what's the right amount. If insurance is only going to cover 20 hours and they need another 10, I want the opportunity to go for that other 10, right? Or at least to understand the interplay there. You want to review all doctor's notes, and this is true for therapy notes and education notes, for accuracy and consistency, but most importantly for inaccuracies. I cannot speak to the doctor's notes and therapies from personal experience because, like I said, I don't have a medically fragile kid, but I can talk about it from like a therapeutic perspective. So one of my son's evaluations from ABA showed that it said property destruction. Okay. And I'm a special education attorney. I read records, all the time. And that concerned me because I've never seen my son destroy toys. And so when I asked the therapist for a definition, she said, the way we define property destruction is any use of a toy that is inappropriate or use of an item that's inappropriate. Well, that makes total sense because my son spins everything. He spins everything. He doesn't play with it appropriately. He spins it, but he's not destroying it. And I said, that makes total sense to me, and I don't disagree with you. But can you put that definition in there? Because my concern is if we go forward and someone reads property destruction, they're going to think of it in a different way, right? So I want it clear. If my son destroys things, that's not okay, but that's what it is. Let's be honest about it. But you want to make sure those accuracies are there because mischaracterizations of your kid, medically, therapeutically, emotionally, behaviorally, can cause problems down the road, right? Not everyone's going to be knowledgeable or compassionate. So you want to check those records for accuracy, okay? Another suggestion, oops, sorry. The last suggestion, no, sorry. One is asking them to write their therapeutic recommendations in the report as well as on the prescription. And I think that her reasoning for that was it helps with conversations with insurance. So those are just some considerations. I don't know if they're going to make sense for you, but just some things to get yourself thinking about how to approach the fire hose, as it were. Okay.
Well, and they also say, bring someone else with you if possible, your spouse or somebody else who's also going to be listening to what the doctor is saying, because in that moment, neither one of you will be able to catch everything that's being thrown at you. So having two sets of ears at least would be beneficial, right?
Most definitely. And just the emotional support, because none of this is easy. None of it. Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about public school. I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. I am a special education attorney. This is the area of law that I practice. I am not here to give you legal advice about public school. I just want to introduce you to kind of the different intersections. I also want to, put the disclaimer. The only people who call my office are having a bad day. But there are a lot of really, really good people in public schools. I'd like to believe that I was one of them during my time. But this is a highly nuanced area. And so, I encourage you to, if you're having difficulties here, reach out to someone to talk about your more specific issues. Like, this is a super broad overview just to let you know kind of what's available over the course of your kiddo's services from birth to 22. So here's my little timeline. So there's literally something available from birth to age 22. But it's broken up into different sections. So the first section, birth to, we're going to say basically age 3, is what we call early childhood intervention. Okay. In Texas, this is done a collaboration more or less through public school and the Texas Health and Human Services. And what it is, it's similar to an ARD or an IEP team meeting in some ways, but it's a collaboration of services that helps the family to bring in the right people. It is not a direct services model, it's a coaching model. So what they're basically doing is coaching parents through, in terms of speech, like how to encourage speech in kiddos with speech delays, or in physical therapy, certain things, sit them up like this, or, different things. So it can be a really good thing. It's not always as intensive as parents might need. And I'll, we didn't utilize ECI, because we had access to ABA, speech and OT. And so we went that route because we have a prescribed route, but it's definitely something you want to look into because it's an option for you, and it might help you find the things that you need. And if it's not enough for your kiddo, you can look into private services, talk to your insurance, things like that. Then we get to age 3 to 6, and this is where we're really, really starting to get into public school in a more real way. Think preschool. Okay, think preschool. ECSC, Early Childhood Special Education, used to be called PPCD, Preschool Program for Children with Disabilities. The name changed recently. This is going to look more like an ARD meeting, more like an IEP team meeting, and it's going to track a lot with pre-K standards. So you're not into the TEKS necessarily yet, but some school districts have full day pre-K, some have half day, some have blended programs where your child is in a general education classroom with support. Some school districts don't. It's going to depend on kind of where you are, but you want to reach out to your school district when your child is, and I love this because I have to sit down and calculate it, 2.9 months old. So basically, 3 months before they turn 3, you can reach out to them and request an ECSE evaluation and get that process started. Section 504 and special education starts, and these dates, there's some nuance here. So just generally speaking, 6 to 18. Okay, this is going to be kindergarten. Section 504 and special education are not the same thing, but they are first cousins. Section 504 comes from the Rehabilitation Act, and it is literally Section 504 of that act, and it goes over accommodations available to people with disabilities to help them access their curriculum. Way more nuanced than that. That is the Cliff Notes. But it is not the same thing as special education. You don't need a 504 plan and an IEP. You either have one or the other. Special education is specially designed instruction and related services. If you have an IEP, you have those accommodations from 504. If you have a 504 plan, you do not have specially designed instruction. Okay. So the nuance here is that you could be a person with autism who has a 504 plan. You could be a person with autism who has an IEP, or you could be a person with autism who has neither. It's always dependent on need. Do you need a 504 plan? Do you need an IEP? Okay, 18 plus program. The 18 plus program is for individuals with more intensive disabilities who need more time in school. And again, these are cliff notes. This is not into the minutia, but things like job coaching, things like daily living skills to help them be more independent. It's going to depend on, again, your school district, your students' needs. One of the things you want to think about in the 18 plus program is whether you have a good vocational evaluation sometime after 14 to 18 to really look at strengths. I was at a conference or a workshop the other day, and the acronym was SPIN, and I'm gonna mess it up, but it's strengths, preferences, interests, and I forget what N was. But you want to focus on that. I mean, and what I liked about SPIN is because my son with autism spins everything. So I've thought to myself, how can we turn this into a a business opportunity for him, if the traditional route doesn't work out for us. But you want to focus on those things, right? Because there's always a possibility. There's always something they can do. And you don't want to limit and say, well, because they can't go to veterinarian school, they can't work with animals. That's not true, right? There's always something else they can do that intersects their love of animals and gives them independence, as an example. And then this last category, which is appropriately gray, 22 to the rest of their life, is adulthood. And that's where you want to have started as early as possible to set up those special needs financial tools, make sure they're, have spent time with TWC or had a job coach and can be as independent and enjoy their life as much as possible. So we can go to the next slide. Candidly, we can probably just, I think we probably don't need these slides. I think I just went through everything on the timeline.
We're just looking at all these cute pictures of these wonderful
beautiful,
kiddos.
yeah, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful,
All
wonderful.
right.
Okay. This list is for you when CPG sends out the email. You'll get this. Hopefully the links will work. If they don't, type in the highlighted portion into Google and you'll be able to find these. This is in no way exhaustive, but these are some starting points, some free resources online that can help you to start looking at those different areas depending on what stage you're in, right? Because a new diagnosis can come when your kid is 18 months, or a new diagnosis can come when your kid is 18 years old, right? And anywhere in between. So we all might be at different stages with our new diagnosis, but these are starting points. And like Michelle said, if I don't do a traditional consultation model. You call my office. Or you call or contact me, we schedule a time to talk. I don't charge for that. We make sure that I'm a good fit. And if you want to move forward, you move forward. That's my model right now for the law firm. If you have questions, or you need resources, or you are at the beginning of your diagnosis and you just need to chat with somebody who made it through the first year, call my office. I'd love to chat. Okay, next slide is community. Community is going to be really important for you. I am typically, I think we have a question. Do I solely work with people 22 and younger? So my practice is special education specifically, and I don't do any 504 litigation. But I go to 504 meetings if that's appropriate, and that's the determination made by you and I, and some time spent looking at records. I do some uncontested guardianships as needed. It's not something that it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's needed and I don't mind doing them. But no, I don't really work with individuals under that age. I work with parents. So if you have a kiddo who's 18, their rights have transferred to them unless you have a guardianship. And so at that point, if they needed my services for something, they would be the client. That's super nuanced, but I don't have any. So I guess the answer is no. I work with parents of children who are public school age. So through 22, if you have a guardianship or that whole transfer of rights thing is fun, but hopefully that answered your question.
And then for me, we work with mainly parents because we're trying to figure out how much your child will need to take care of them for the rest of their life, and how you as a parent will be able to gather those resources or leave them to the child in a way that won't jeopardize their other government benefits, state and federal benefits, and how to maximize your retirement, your social security, and that kind of stuff. So for us, we work with mainly parents who have a loved one with a disability.
Very good.
All right, on to your
Yes,
community.
community, and I'm almost done, so we got to save time for Michelle's stuff. It's very important. Um, Very welcome. So community, this can look like so many different things. Post-pandemic, I think we've all embraced online community maybe more than we did before, or maybe that's just an elder millennial thing to say, and the rest of you have been on board for a while. But I found the online community to be somewhat helpful. I think you have to be guarded. I am nervous to post anything or a question because of my background and my fear and shame around people going, my God, I thought you would know this after 15, 16 years of working in this in special needs, teaching in the law. Um, but I know a lot of my in-person friends, people I actually know, who've gotten a lot of good feedback from this. There are some of the other moms, caregivers will post, hey, we've got a free adaptive tricycle. Does anybody want it? It's a good way to find out, hey, how did you feel about this doctor? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for vetting people, for finding resources. There are actually a lot of special needs services in the greater Houston area in Texas, but you don't know what you don't know. And so I think it's a good opportunity. The anonymous posting tool can be good too, as long as nobody abuses it. But if you're feeling like I can't be vulnerable, but I really just need to get this out and see if someone has an answer, a lot of, especially on Facebook, you can use that tool. You just want to stay connected. Okay. And another thing I would say is, for us as a family, we took a very long time to start talking about our son's diagnosis for a lot of reasons. One is we just needed an opportunity to come to terms with it, to deal with it in our own way. I had pretty tough time with it myself. But the other reason is, there's always somebody in your family who's got some weird milkweed cure for whatever. And you don't necessarily, maybe you don't have the emotional capacity to fight with Uncle Joe about why, yeah, so true. Why, I don't know.
Well, it's like
The
that with everybody. I think in every area, your family members, your friends, your loved ones, they come to you with a heart of gold, and they want to be helpful, and they're well-meaning, but sometimes they just say stupid things.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. The one that hit me the hardest, which might just be unique to me, but actually the other mom, it happened to her too, because she's also worked with adults with disabilities her whole career, is people, oh, well, he's so lucky to have you. And that was really well-meaning, but at the time it was like, but I'm not prepared for this. But I know too much, and I'm too afraid for his future, and I need someone to hear what I'm feeling. And so for me, I just didn't talk about it. Um, I just didn't talk about it. Even with my, half my friends are teachers, half my friends are attorneys. And even with my teacher friends, like, I didn't really know if I could open up, because what were they going to say, right? So you want to take your time with it. And I think it's okay if you start to talk and a family member, is like, hey, I saw this on Facebook. It's this ointment. You just rub it on their feet 3 times and it'll cure them. You say, I really appreciate what you're saying. Can I be really honest with you? I'm not in a space to hear that right now. We're just trying to get through the initial diagnosis, right? I mean, it's okay to say that. Oh, we have
As a
oh, did I do that?
psychologist who's done research with preemies who then went on to have a 31 weeker, she totally understands that feeling.
Yeah,
You're in it, but you're not living it until you're really living it. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I consider myself to be a compassionate attorney and then a compassionate teacher. But once I had Connor and realized we were having this diagnosis, it opens up the world for you in a different way, right? And I think if motherhood is lonely and isolating, being the mother of a child with special needs is, a form of of solitary confinement in some ways. You know, it was even more isolating. So build your community, build it with intention. And then we're going to touch on self-care, and I promise I'm going to stop because Michelle's got to take over. But self-care, you can go to the next slide. This is all I'll say about that. Yep, there's that. Yeah, okay. Not an endorsement, but a wonderful place, and we appreciate them very much. Nothing is ever straightforward. And you're going to be their advocate. You're going to be the person who's going to carry this weight with you until the day that you die. No matter how good things get for them, there's always going to be some new stage of life. And you literally cannot pour from an empty cup. And so taking care of yourself is taking care of your child. I have normalized for myself saying out loud things like, to my two toddlers, I understand that you want my attention right now, but I'm going to finish doing the dishes because this is something that's good for all of us. I know that's silly, but it makes me feel less guilty about ignoring them when I'm just trying to get the dishes in, right? Or stepping away to do a webinar or to work with clients, and knowing that the fight that I'm fighting for other people's kids is the fight that I was fighting for my son this whole time I didn't know I was doing, right? Trying to lay down a path for him before he even got here. So for my sake, I won't delve deep because I don't think it really helps, but I went to a super dark place. Not only was his diagnosis in January, I was a month postpartum with my youngest son. So there was kind of a cacophony of emotion and hormone there. But the best thing that I did for me was I came out of maternity leave early and got back to representing clients. And that fire and advocacy helped me move through my depression because I genuinely thought I was going to leave the practice. I didn't think I was going to be able to handle it. Turns out I'm still happy to be here. But I don't know what self-care looks like for you. I doubt it's really bubble baths or a quick solo trip to the grocery store. But whatever it is, if you can't do it for yourself, then tell yourself you're doing it for your kid, because ultimately you can't pour from an empty cup and they need you. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm done with my presentation. I hope this has been helpful. If there's something that I left out, shoot me an email, let me know, but I'm going to give this over to Michelle because she's got some really good information she's got to share with you.
You are so sweet, Jennifer. Thank you for being here and presenting all of this stuff to us. It's been so helpful. And like I said at the beginning, when you are new to this and you are in the thick of it and just trying to take one day at a time, I know that this can be overwhelming. It can be a lot to be thinking about, but it's so important because the sooner you get started, the better results you're going to have kind of with everything. The sooner you start building your team and your support network and getting these diagnoses and finding things out, the more you have time to turn little knobs here and there that can make a huge, huge difference. So here's a quick question for you. The kids that are in that 18 to 22-year-old post-graduation transition program at school, are they still covered by FAPE, which is the full and appropriate uh, education?
Free, it's okay. Free and appropriate public education. You're absolutely
So
there. And
close.
it should be totally full. As long as they're still in school, as long as they haven't officially graduated and they still have an IEP, then yes, they're still guaranteed FAPE. There's a huge amount of nuance around that. And if you're having a specific issue, I recommend you reach out to a practitioner. But as long as they're still in school, they're still entitled to a FAPE. FAPE does look different after 18.
Okay, I'm going to do this slide while Jennifer reads that long comment we just got, and then we'll address your question. So when you're thinking about planning for the future for your loved one, the very first thing I always say is, if you have any indication that there is some kind of intellectual or developmental disability, you need to get on the waiver waiting list as soon as possible. You're going to contact your local intellectual and developmental disability authority, or LIDA. You can go to Google and type LIDA lookup, LIDDA. It's separated by counties, and you want to get on this list as soon as possible because this is how you're going to get waiver programs in the state of Texas. They will help pay for things like transportation, therapies, medication, dental, nursing hours, respite hours, all kinds of things. But the waiting list for these programs, when I started doing this about 4 years ago, I was trained, oh, tell everybody it's 15 to 17 years. Okay, then it went up to 17 to 20. And now they're saying 20 to 25 years before you're going to be able to get those waiver services. So sign up now. I know, wow, that's crazy, huh? Develop a letter of intent. That is kind of a love letter about your family and your child. Start with the facts, name, dates of birth, birth dates, doctors, diagnoses, siblings. What plans do you already have in place? And then go into the other stuff like their personality and what you hope, goals for the future for them, and spiritual routine and bedtime routine and all of that. And that is going to be there for somebody, if anybody ever has to step into your place and take over as caregiver for you. Work with a special needs planner like us, or any other financial planner who focuses on special needs topics, to help you develop your plan for the future and for the future cost of care for your loved one. Find a good attorney who focuses on special needs topics, who can help you with your will, special needs trust, guardianship, powers of attorney, all of that kind of stuff. Just like when you're working with a GPS and you're trying to figure out where you want to go, it always wants to know where you're starting from. And it's the same with special needs planning, is that we need to know what you've already done and where you are to advise you of where to go next and what steps to take. And then while you're going through this planning process, of course, it's very important to think about what you want your future to look like for yourself and for the loved ones that are in your life. So Jennifer, what was that long? Is that something we can answer for Kimberly?
Yes, she was asking if, yeah, so I think the question is about trying to understand special education jargon and her rights. And so free phone call if you want to reach out. I'm happy to point you to resources. I can't give legal advice without establishing a relationship, looking at your documents, doing my due diligence, but I can point you to free resources, or we can talk about whether this is something that I can help you with, or I can get you the list of other attorneys in Texas and you can talk to anybody and see who's a good fit for your family. Those are things I can do that I'm happy to do. Just reach out.
Perfect, perfect. And then I see Brianna is asking if Consolidated Planning Group is free or if there is a cost. So we do some things for free and some things at a cost. Our initial consultation is always free. You get to speak with an advisor at the firm and pick our brains. Then we're going to try to learn about you and your family. And then we will go through our 3 planning options. We have 3 paid options, but we also do life insurance and investments at no cost for us. I mean, you still have to pay for life insurance. That's a product we can sell, but we don't charge for those things. So the best thing to do for Consolidated Planning Group is to schedule your free consult, ask us whatever questions you have, and then let us go through our different options and how we work. And then you can see, just like Jennifer was saying, if we're a good fit, great. If not, at least we answered some questions for you. We helped you out. We feel good. You feel good. And we can all sleep a little better at night. So these are some of the things. And we at Consolidated Planning Group, we do this kind of webinar 2, 3, multiple times a week. We put all of our webinars on our YouTube channel afterward, and we send out, if you register for the webinar, we send you a link to the recording plus all the slides. So you'll be able to get all of these slides as long as you have registered and as long as you gave us a real email address. Shaking my finger to those of you who like to give fake email addresses. But as long as you register with your real email, you will get these slides and a link to the recording after each webinar. So we do a lot of help with special needs care planning, future care cost estimates, the waivers and the interest lists and the other benefits that are available statewide and federally. We talk about ABLE accounts and designating your beneficiaries and making sure that you don't jeopardize your child's benefits. Special needs trust. We've done webinars where we talk about divorce topics because unfortunately, in the special needs world, this is a very, very common thing to worry about. We've done several community webinars where we talk about residential communities or summer camps, vocational programs, all of those kinds of things, colleges that have great educational programs. We partner with attorneys, great attorneys like Jennifer, who can help us talk about guardianship or divorce topics or alternative to guardianship and school topics with your art and your FERPA and all of those crazy acronyms. And just what's available out there beyond high school and what you need to do as things go along. It's very important that you make sure that you have your child's money in the appropriate buckets, because if you have money saved for your child, they could miss out on other benefits. For example, SSI is a great benefit that your child should qualify for when they turn 18, but they cannot have more than $2,000 in a bank account that has their name on it, and they cannot be working earning more than a substantial gainful amount. Right now, that amount is $1,550 a month. So if your child is making more than $1,550 a month and they have more than $2,000, they will not qualify for SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Insurance. That amount right now is $943 per month. As your child ages and as the years go on, they do adjust that amount yearly. So we can always update you on what those amounts are. You want to make sure that you never have your child listed as a beneficiary straight up on anything. Because if you pass away and your life insurance goes to your child, boom, they have over $2,000 in assets. And now they won't qualify for for Medicaid, for the waivers, for SSI, really any of that stuff. So it's important that you have things set up correctly from the beginning and make sure that any of those well-meaning family members who love to give you free advice also understand that they cannot leave money to your child directly. They also have to leave it to a special needs trust. Yes, so the only two places, and that's what I was just getting to. Thank you so much, Marley. Make sure that you have a special needs trust for your loved one, and an ABLE account is also very helpful. You can have both of these vehicles in your life. There are big differences between the two. Special needs trust is more for their future care once you are gone. With the special needs trust, you can put in an unlimited amount of money. There's no limit on how much money you can put in. But if you are relying on SSI benefits, that $943 a month, you don't want to use that special needs trust for rent, food, utilities, cash, things that they need every single day. So what do? Well, that's where the ABLE account comes in. The ABLE account is works a little bit differently. You can only put in a certain amount each year. This year it's 18,000. You never want it to go above 100,000 total. But with the ABLE account, the difference is that you can use that money for anything that helps your child achieve a better life experience. As a matter of fact, that's what it stands for, ABLE, Achieving a Better Life Experience. We have a lot more information about ABLE accounts. I know this is a great topic. I'm gonna, go kind of quick because I don't want to run out of time, but basically the beneficiary is the account owner. Anybody can put money in. And what happens with an ABLE account, it's just like a 529 college savings plan. That's a 529C. This is a 529A. You put money in, they take out a maintenance fee, and then they invest that money. the money grows, and that is a tax advantaged account because the money grows and you are not taxed on the income it generates. It's not huge, and we're very conservative with this investment because it's your child's money. We don't want it to be put in jeopardy, but you can put money in, it grows tax-free, and then you can use it. So this is kind of a save to spend account. You don't put money in the ABLE and ignore it for 40 years like you do with maybe a retirement account, which you shouldn't do as a financial advisor, let me tell you. But for your special needs loved one, this can be money that they can use to pay rent or buy groceries or take a vacation or buy a car or a laptop or anything they need. But again, developing a future care plan now is the time to do it. It doesn't matter how old or how young your child is, the time to start planning is right now. Don't wait. There's no reason to wait. There is no reason why you should put this off, because even if you're not, you're not there yet, you're not rich yet, you're not self-insured yet, that is okay. We are here to grow with you and to help you set things up correctly so that it's easier for your future. And if something happens to you, your family will be protected. We also want you to think about the options beyond high school. There are educational options, vocational options, and residential options that you need to consider. And sometimes they have waiting lists as well. Not quite like the 20 to 25 years of the waiver programs, but still, we don't want you to find like the perfect residential community for your child and you're ready to move them in, and then you realize, oh, there's a waiting list. We can't do it yet. And we always say, be very, very careful when you're thinking about who will take care of your loved one. Don't just assume that a sibling is going to want to or be able to take charge of that situation. We mentioned these waiver programs. Here are the phone numbers and how to get signed up for those programs. There's a phone number that everyone here is going to call, is the 1-877 number. You might not qualify for all three of those waiver programs, but everyone will qualify for class. So everyone here should call 1-877-438-5658 and get on their waiting list, and then contact your local authority. The link is right here. This would be like MHMR, the Harris Center, Bluebonnet, Texanus. If some of those sounds familiar, that's what we're talking about when we talk about your LIDA. Get signed up with them. And if you've waited a while and your child is almost 21, then you can go ahead and call Star Plus too. That is for people who are 21 and older. Please send Jennifer your feedback. She has already put her contact info in the chat box, and you can reach out to her directly with any questions you have. She's also looking for honest comments. Of course, we are too. You can reach out to us. Jennifer's contact info will be sent to you. This link will take you to all of our upcoming webinars. You can register for them ahead of time. And then you don't even have to worry about if you can make it at noon, because we will send you all the information. Here's our fantastic team. Again, we're just outside of Houston. We're an independent firm, and we're a small firm. We love helping everybody that we can. Here's how you schedule your free consultation with Consolidated Planning Group. We will be reaching out to you. You signed up with your name and email and phone number for a reason. We'll reach out. We are very polite. I swear we don't bite. So please just give us that same respect when we call you to see if you would like to schedule your free consultation or if you have any more questions. You can always reach out to us first if you'd prefer. You can follow our YouTube channel here. We've also got the Instagram, the podcast, and our Facebook page. So thank you all. Please reach out to Jennifer or I with any further questions that you have. We're so glad that you joined us today, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Everybody, thank you. Jennifer, thank you for all of your help today. Have a great time, and we will talk again soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Bye,
very much.
everybody.
Bye.